Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, September 25th, 2020. And this, of course, is our weekly video, a look back at last week's eBay auction results, what was going on, what's coming up on the global member pages, because there's quite a lot happening there right now. It's pretty amazing. And how things went over on Catawiki, what's coming up on Catawiki. But before we get into it, I hope some of you were able to take a little time and take a look at the videos we put up this week. We recorded live of some of the New York sales, Sotheby's and Christie's in particular. They both did a stellar job. And if you saw some of the price results, saw how the Alsdorf Collection went, it's pretty obvious that the market is very thirsty and very interested in things from great collections of top quality. The prices were through the roof, and just absolutely amazing what went on in a couple of these sales. And we watched today and recorded some of the important Chinese works of art sale. We got the segments we wanted. We had sort of checked off some of the better pieces, the more interesting pieces, to record them, and we're going to put those in a video for you as soon as we can. All right. We'll also be doing a video next week, sort of an overall roundup of all the sales, bringing in the things that we like, the things that we might have looked at in the preview video that we released on Monday and in the previous weeks about the sales, to see how things went. And it was overall a lot of strength in the market. Christie's and Sotheby's both did a great job with broadcasting their auctions. I thought what Christie's did, if any of you watched it, was particularly cool because they had two cameras running, one in Hong Kong, one in New York City, and they used, as they always do, they switched back and forth between auctioneers. Their auctioneers are really interesting people. They're fun to watch. They're very entertaining, and the quality of the recordings were quite good. And we were able to find ways to capture them with the audio and share them with you. And we have another one. And what we're going to do right here is I'll just run through to give you some of the sort of like a quick few second, little bit of highlight reel of what went on today and what will be in the next video. And but do check the Alsdorf sale and the other sales we put up. The prices were in multiples of the high estimates in many cases. Doubling and tripling of high estimates was almost common this time around. It was really something. So check it out. Here are just a few of them for the fun of it.
Carmen, still selling with you and only you, $880,000. Thank you very much. Sold to you to paddle number
8210.
8210. Thank you. And thank you, Tina, to your client for their bids. Done. $820,000. 820. Jessica, sold for you, $820,000. Thank you to paddle number one. All right. Lot
$520,000. Fair warning, last chance at 520. All done? Definitely not. Okay, thank you so much for your bids. Selling to you, Jessica, for $510,000 online. Last chance, I'm going to sell at $1,200,000. Thank you for your bids. It's there at $1,200,000. Michael?
All right, and that's how it went. It was sort of that way for a lot of the time. It almost seems the higher the prices, the more interest there were in those, in getting even higher prices. The middle market was still nice and strong, but the upper market and the mid-upper market were out of this world. So we'll be doing a bit more on that. As for what's happening in our world, back in our little corner of the planet, there's a lot going on still, actually. Live Auctioneers has got a bunch of sales coming up. If you're using the global member pages, I hope you're paying attention to them because we added a bunch of auctions. They also, speaking of the Alsdorf sale, there is a live auction segment on Christie's right now. I mean, an online segment of other pieces from the Alsdorf Collection. And it might be a nice buying opportunity. These are not things that are going to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. These are things in the under the $15,000 range, but some awfully nice things. And you should check it out. You really should, because the provenance after this sale is some of the prices are going to be in the record books, I suspect. And having that ownership and that provenance is not a bad thing. Because in the future you're going to be seeing references to that collection in auctions all the time. All right, but now on to other things that are happening here. Palazzo do Corello Velho in Portugal has a sale that's coming up. We're going to take a look at a couple of their things. There's some very good armorial pieces in there, some very good export pieces coming up. There's a sale. Marquis de Santos is coming up with a lot of good Chinese furniture and some great export wares again, and also some Wan Li and Kangxi pieces, jars, and so forth. And let's take a look at them right now. All right, this is coming up tomorrow at Marquis de Santos. Is this great big Kangxi, they call them fish bowls. They're the big rounded bodies, mask handles, and the inverted flattened rims. Very nicely decorated, a good example. Unfortunately, this auction house, for some reason, I don't know why, if you're selling on Live Auctioneers Invaluable, include as many pictures as you can. At least include 3 or 4 pictures of each piece, and be sure to include the bottoms, because you're just sabotaging. It's not inexpensive to put things on Invaluable and Live Auctioneers. They take a decent percentage of the sale. So get as much out of it as you can. Take the time, take some extra pictures if you're an auctioneer, and include condition reports in your listings. Don't make people come chasing them. It'll cost you money. All right, and also Velinghuis Look has this bowl coming up in just a few days, 4 days from now. Nice crack piece, or late Ming, one late thing with the clouds, with the horses floating through the celestials, heavens and clouds. Beautifully done. Nice vine work coming up the body down here. Really like it. Nice looking bowl. Estimate's reasonable too, 8 to 1,200 euros. I think that's right in there. But always get a condition report on all these things before you spend any money. All right, and then this is the Creo auction in Portugal. Has this nice Ming jar. It's about 9 inches tall or so. Mentions a repair, but I suspect it might be on the foot of the rim because the body looks absolutely fine. Again, they don't include enough photographs to make any sort of decision, so you're going to have to call them, get a hold of them if you have the time between now and the 29th if you're interested in this. But their stuff, a bunch of their stuff is on the global page on Invaluable, and you really want to look at it. There's some nice things there. Nice things there. And this is something that's coming up at Marquis de Santos, is this very nice big armorial platter with this beautiful swag vine relief. And the crest looks like it's in pretty good shape. Often armorial crests, because they were meant for big dinner service, they were obviously part of a big dinner service, they got used. People, scraped plates across them, the tureens scratched them, they used knives on them to slice things. And this one looks to be in remarkably nice condition. It hasn't been used too much. And it has a reasonable estimate, $500 to $700. It's 37 centimeters, or roughly 14 inches in length. Nice looking thing. And then over to this, the Famivaire piece. This is De Santos again. This is coming up in just tomorrow. If you're interested in it, this is just a reminder to you. Nice Kangxi plate with blue enamels, beautiful rim. I love the lappet rim they put on this, and just the profusion of flowers. Rather a nice pattern, actually, and it's a good sized plate. It's a charger. It is 36 centimeters in diameter, with an $1,800 to $2,400 estimate, which seems to be in the range, provided it's in good condition. It just says minimal flaws on rim, so I suspect if you've gotten a condition report, it's probably in good shape. Maybe a nick out of the foot or something, but nothing significant. That's all good. All right, and then on to this. One of the things that we started doing, because a few people asked me why we don't do more with textiles and carpets and things from China and Central Asia, the Turkmenistan, because they made such amazing products in those areas. So we're starting to, some of you will notice, we're starting to include more Chinese rugs and carpets. We do a lot with silks and robes. People love those. Well, if you like silks and robes, you should also look into carpets, including carpets for columns that were put up in temples, throne seat covers like this, and then carpets, of course, for the floor. Chinese rugs and Central Asian textiles are some of the best in the world. Turkoman pieces, teki, yomud, saris, and that sort of thing. They're absolutely beautiful. They're all tied into Asian culture, and are absolutely wonderful objects, and the quality is impeccable. All right, so if you're looking for an area to pique your interest in carpets, that's one of them. And Chinese rugs, I believe, are crazily under the market value, are relative bargains. And I don't know why, because they're beautifully made. All right, and then on to this. This is a bowl that's coming up at Bronx. It's a 15-inch punch bowl. It's on the global pages, but a really lovely example. And from the pictures and from what I can see, it doesn't look like it has much wear. The enamels all look pretty good on it. I don't see a lot of chipping and nicking to the wear. The rim looks nice. You still see the gilt line is still running around there. It's all in good shape. All right. Okay. There is a hair. Oh, there's a hairline in here. Okay. Well, then, all bets are off. No, it's still a good bowl. Punch bowls often have holes, hairlines in them, but it's a beautiful example. Nice looking foot on it. All right. So you want to check that out if you're a China trade collector. This particular bowl, as I recall, is on the cover in this pattern of, maybe, is it the book on George Washington and his dinner service? I think it might have been, because this is like a 1770s bowl. Check that out. It might be the same pattern. If you have that book, George Washington's Dinner Service. Okay, came out in the 80s, and I have it at home. All right, and then on to this, the Christie Sale. This is their Japanese and lacquer sale. There's some nice things. This is online only. This is an online-only sale. It closes in 5 days. If you're a Japanese lacquer buyer, check it out. There's some great lacquer boxes, really great. And I want to mention something, too. The live sales this week in New York of the Japanese and Korean stuff saw some very good prices. I was thrilled. I was really happy to see it because I think Japanese and Korean art is woefully undervalued. There was a Korean vase with figures on 18th century Joseon vase that sold, I think, $750,000, and we're going to include that. Also, that wonderful carving, the contemporary carving of the seated Buddha or the temple figure that was on the cover of it was either the Christie's or the Sotheby's catalog, if you remember that. That sold for $300,000 or $400,000. It went 10 times its estimate. So I think whoever that artist is, you're going to be hearing more and more about him. Because he has just broken into the big leagues for contemporary Japanese art. I loved the thing. I absolutely loved that thing. I thought it was fabulous. All right, so check that out. And then over on Christie's, as I mentioned, they're doing the online thing. This is one of the pieces they have up. This very, very nice covered gilt bronze kapala with gilding all the way around it. Nice lappet base on it. $6,000 to $8,000 estimate. So you might want to take a shot at that. I suspect the reserve is somewhere in the reasonable range. You never know, but I suspect that's the case. This closes in 3 days, 18 hours. All right. So there's a lot going on still, even though Asia Week is sort of winding down, and everybody will be autopsying their results, see how they did, see what was up, see what was down. We're going to do the same thing next week. We'll go through and pick out the things that we liked, the things that we maybe talked about before that did very well, because it's absolutely fascinating to see how these sales went. And it was a lot of fun watching them. All right, now over to the eBay side. What happened last week over there? This vase sold. It was a nice Republican vase. It had been drilled on the bottom. It had a drilled base, as I recall, but it was beautifully enameled. A nice looking scene, landscape on it. I like the step base down here. But anyway, it's a Republican period example. Marked China on the bottom, and it ended up selling for $590, which I think was a pretty reasonable buy. I think it probably would have brought over $1,000 had it not been drilled. I thought it might have been done a little better than that, but still, that was a nice thing, and whoever got it got a nice buy. All right, and then on to this. This was from the seller up in Canada. This big 18th or 19th century green glaze crackle pot. I suspect it was probably more likely 19th century than 18th. It's hard to tell. It's unmarked. I haven't handled it, but it's what it looks like. It doesn't really matter. It was beautifully done. And I love the crackle pattern on it, how it ran vertically on the lower half until the neck. And this is about where the neck would have been luted into the pot, right? And then the crackle changed radically, went vertically, horizontally here around the shoulder, and then the crackle lines continue through that up the body and then start to go into a twist. As you see, they start to move counterclockwise as it approaches the mouth. Nice looking pot, though. In any event, a lot of people liked it. It ended up selling for $4,850, but it was big. Also, I think it was. They had an old tag in it that said it was chin lung. I don't think it was. I just don't have the feeling. The body doesn't look quite right to me for that. But at any rate, it did just fine, and it was a nice example, regardless of that 20-year period, high or low, when it was made. Very nice. And then on to this. This was a pair of plates that were up, and a couple of people asked me if I thought they were Japanese, because the Japanese in the Seto kilns did do plates emulating Famille Rose examples from China, and it looked very similar to this, but this is not they. These are actually the Chinese ones. And one of the problems that this seller did was he overexposed his pictures just a little bit. And I don't know if people actually look at their photographs after they take them and put them on a put them on the screen and check them for color and focus. But I guess they didn't, or just didn't want to retake them because these pictures don't show anything. And here's a picture of the back, so you can't even tell where the end of the plate goes because he shot it against a white plate against a white background with a lot of light. And what happens is the plate just vanishes into the white paper. You cannot see anything. But they did provide some of these where it was on a table under more, with a little less intensity to it, and this, and you get a good look at it. And this was a nice, probably early 20th century dish, judging by the foot rim, late Qing, more likely early Republic, I suspect. And they didn't put a date on them. They just said Famille Rose plates, which is true. And enough people liked them, and they threw some bids at them, and the pair went for $316. But they are a pair, and they are pretty. And that's the way it goes. And then on to this. This is one of my favorite things. I like this a lot. This is a Nonya Straits textile with all that beautiful, beautiful tassel work they put around the outside to frame it. And then a lot of people might look at this and think it's newer than it is. It isn't. This is an old one. And it was just beautifully preserved. If you take a look at the back, here's the back panel, the back silk on it, that would have been originally a much clearer, bright, sharper blue. And you can see here where the folds and the creases were, wherever this thing was stored, where it has faded a lot. And that type of fading, and along creases like this, where it turns almost like this was blue originally. It's almost gray here. That's because it's old. All right, it's a quick way to tell. And also this purple edge, Chinese purples tend to fade very rapidly. Again, this got much softer than it was originally. And then when you lift it up here, they peeled it back so you could look inside the layers. There's that blue. That's the backing. That's the color that this was originally. That color right there is this. All right, you're looking inside what that silk originally looked like. It just shows you how much it's faded over the decades since it was made, probably done around 1900 and 1920. Anyway, enough people saw that difference and realized how old it was, and they paid for it. $2,075, which is not crazy for Nonya Straits wedding silks or hangings, festival hangings. They had beautiful colors. God, they picked great fabrics, and the very festive, very cheerful silks for their own culture and for their market. Beautifully done. And then onto this, another robe. This was sort of a heck of a nice robe. It was silk damask, main silk here, and then all this very, very good needlework all around it with this collar with giant rue heads on it. These robes were, as everybody knows that handles a lot of these, were very prone to rotting, as all silk was. Silk damask can get damaged. And once it gets damaged, there's not much you can do with it. So people often, you'll see like this, the collars to these robes being sold sometimes in frames. All right, and the reason is it was stripped off of a robe that was probably damaged or stained. Something happened to it, and they want to save the needlework, and that's what happens. And you'll also notice that this banding, this patterning that you see here along the sleeves, let me see if they provide the painting. Oh, here we go. You often see these strips framed in the West. They're hanging often in pairs. They could be anywhere from 8 or 9 inches tall to maybe 15 or 20 inches tall even. And they would take these off of old robes or gather them from another textile and frame them. All right, but this is what it looks like on the silk. But this is very nice quality silk damask. You can see the damask over in here. You can see the edges of a bat and so forth. And this nice black edging, and then this very crisp, clear colors are still very vibrant on this, which means it's been in a box. Chinese silks colors were always quite vibrant and strong, very pretty. Even in the Ming Dynasty, the colors were originally very strong. All right, and then on to this. This was that pair of panels that we talked about last week. I thought they needed to be ironed, but they did pretty well in the end. They ended up selling for about $760. But if you have these, you bought these, take them out and get them to a good framer and have them stretched and get the wrinkles out of them, get them back properly on a non-acid-free back. And these would hang nicely. They'd look great in a dining room or a living room at the end of a big hallway. Really like them. Yeah, $760. There you go. All right. Those were nice. I like those. And then over here to this, the Pak Tong hand warmer that we had mentioned. We had seen this right before we did the video last week, and I didn't have a good chance to spend any time looking at it. But if it was, we would include it in the newsletter. And we did include it in the newsletter because it was very nice. It was probably an early 20th century one, but nicely done. And it ended up selling for $535. Pak Tong is a fairly rare commodity out of China. You don't see it all the time. It's an alloy that they learned to make to emulate silver. And this was a nice one. This was a nice one. And I think somebody got a good buy. That's a nice buy. And all the handwork on this was good. All right, and then over to this, the big Hu form Republic period vase. Obviously not Chin Lung or anything, but a nice example. It was about 13 inches tall, but oddly, the base of it had been scratched out. There was some sort of mark here. It probably said China or something, and they took the time to scratch the bottom of it to remove it. There's no need to remove China marks on pieces that are obviously 20th century, because the law that went into effect requiring those marks on things being shipped out of the country began around 1895. So there's no reason to scratch marks out thinking you're going to fool anybody. You're not, okay? This is clearly a Republican vase, and scratching it actually hurt the value, I think, because this was a good example, nicely decorated. The foot looked fine. It had a couple of firing flaws in it, and there was a nick off the inside, but it still stood nice and flat, still stood nice and straight, had a repair there and so forth. And despite all that, it still sold for $2,424, all right? But just as a heads up, if a pot says in enamels China on it, don't scratch it off trying to make it look like they're natural scratches so that people won't know it said China. Everybody knows why there are scratches on bottoms of Chinese vases. All right, doesn't do you any good. All right, and then over here to this little ribbed Kangxi type pot. I'm not sure it was Kangxi. I think it might have been a little bit later, but 18th century certainly. And it's got a Chenhua mark on the bottom, some other type of mark. Here's this. But I do think that the pot was probably had some sort of fitted lid or something, and I can't quite figure out what the deal was here. Let me see. There it is. All right, or it was ground down and so forth, and then polished out. It's sort of an oddball thing. At any rate, it still sold for $898, but I do think it's missing some height. All right, up here, pretty obviously missing some height. But might have had a flared rim mouth like that coming around the top, so forth. All right, and on to this. This closes on Saturday. This is a rather nice Empress Dowager Cixi. Sometimes they call them just Cixi bowls, Cixi. For the Empress Dowager, she was, in all the books they say that she helped design this pattern, the grapes pattern with the squirrels. It was a very popular pattern during her reign. It has been copied to death ever since. A lot of these were made during the mid-Republic period, 1920s, 1930s. They made a lot of these. They tended to be quite thin and light. This one looks like it's a little bit heavier than the typical ones. The foot rim looks pretty good on it. I suspect it was made in the late Qing dynasty. It was not an imperial bowl, but it was made in the late Qing dynasty with the appropriate marks on it. Nice looking example. Has a tiny, tiny little nick out of the glaze right there. Very small, nothing. If you buy it, you want to get it fixed, it should be easy to do. Any ceramicist can repair that, so it'll be invisible. It won't bother you visually. At any rate, it's got 67 bids. Somebody must be doing $5 increments or something. And it's up to $690. I suspect it'll bring $1,200 to $1,400 somewhere in there at the end. All right, but it's a nice looking bowl. I like those bowls. And they made those in square planters. They made them in bulb trays, and they made them also in turquoise and a few other odds and end colors, but mostly a yellow and turquoise. Okay, and then over here, this closes in Sunday, and it's a very nice Yongchen period or Qianlong period, a Chinese export enamel plate on copper. It's about 14 inches in diameter, roughly. Here's a picture of the back of it. Nice looking example, really is, and it looks to be in good shape because, as everybody knows, these export enamel pieces tend to be very banged up because they were used so much. But any event, it's coming up. It closes in a couple days, and they do seem to have a fairly strong estimate on it, 5,000 to 6,000 euros. I don't know what the reserve is. It's up to 2,000 euros right now. So we'll see if that sells next week. I don't know, but it's a nice thing. High estimates are not your friend. If you take a look at those sales that took place in New York this past week, everything that went through the roof had modest estimates and by far exceeded what I think what anybody thought they would have brought had they been estimated more aggressively. Because once pieces go up that have been off the market for a while, Low estimates and encouraging competition and bidding really makes a difference in the end, and they did. All right, and then this very nice Kangxi period iron red and underglazed blue phoenix dish. This is a nice looking example. Very nice colors. Here's the back of it. Not exactly sort of that typical Kangxi foot rim. A couple of firing gaps inside the foot rim, which is all very normal. And it's brought 166 euros, which I think was a very good plate. A very good price for a plate like that. I thought that was a nice buy. Good looking, in good shape, nice clear colors, not a lot of wear, and under 200 euros. Where else can you get that? That's a good deal. Check out Catawiki. Leave a bid. I know they don't ship to every country. You know, they don't ship to Australia still, which is a mystery to me. But at any rate, they don't. But if you are in a country they ship to, check their sales out. And as I say, always leave a bid. Leave a bid with them because you never know. All right. And that's about it for this week. We've done a lot of videos this week. I'm a little exhausted from it, but that's okay. If you like our videos, subscribe to us here on YouTube. Come over to bidamount.com and check it out. And as an update on the global pages, as I said we'd do it, we're working on the language translation thing. And once that gets squared away, then we have a couple of more integrations, and we'll be sharing a lot more with you. We didn't get to do everything we wanted this week because we were so busy with other things, with what was going on in New York and working out all those recordings. Anyway, there'll be a couple more videos next week. Have a great weekend, and I hope some of you find some things you like on the internet to buy in the next week over on the Live Auctioneers and Invaluable member pages and on eBay. The eBay page will be updated by the time you get there. Okay, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.